Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Hope you guys are well. I want to share with you another real life story today. This is an individual who is very successful in the corporate world. He's very busy, is a high operator, is achieving a lot in both business, but is a family man, works very hard, but also has high expectations within their training, wants to be and is very curious to be the best ultra distance trail runner they can be, and has built this up over time. But essentially, this story starts obviously with this individual struggling to kind of understand how much is enough and what does their kind of their training lifestyle need to look like to be sustainable, to be able to kind of be relatively successful across the board, being present at home, to be able to be successful in the office, to be able to kind of work up that career corporate ladder, also to actually then, but also continuously see success and results within their own training. And to take on these new events, to challenge their current levels of fitness. And there's an art to it. And I really want to share this with you. I think there's going to be a lot of things within this episode, guys, that you can either take on board yourself, you'll kind of resonate with yourself, your partner, your training partners. And by all means, guys, share this with them. But this individual, again, is a father. Okay, so there's immediate expectations there, to be there with his children as much as possible, to be present and be supportive for his partner. He travels a lot. He's working in the city. There is obviously the commute that comes with that. 3 to 4 days a week, he's kind of heading into the office or he's commuting. But then amongst this, there is an athlete. There is an athlete there that used to play a lot more kind of team-based sports, rugby being one of them. There was a few injuries that are kind of were still kind of lingering, shall we say, a couple of decades later. But now, with this kind of natural engine for endurance sport, was looking to kind of test and see what it's capable of. Unfortunately, when he came to us, there was some kind of, he'd been kind of bouncing around with certain injuries, kind of getting certain little kind of momentary treatments that were kind of working, but then becoming overloaded again, manifesting into other different types of sort of single-side injuries. But the biggest elephant in the room was that there was a lot of mismatch. There was a lot of information coming in from different places, potentially too many chefs in the kitchen. There was too many voices. And what we need to do is strip this back and go, right, what is the primary focus here? And it was getting his body back to where he could just start to train consistently again. That was the biggest thing. So even though there was a list of goals that obviously he was looking to achieve, the most important thing was finding this balance, this kind of homeostasis where he could be a father, he could work hard, progress in the corporate world that he's working in, but also start to consistently see some results from his training and and actually find some consistency and actually being able to turn up week after week and do so. I want to share with you how we did this. Now, first and foremost, again, understanding the individual. What type of lifestyle is this person living? What type of commute does this look like? What does this work life look like? Layered on top of what the family lifestyle looks like? What on top of what their kind of the training expectations are? Like, what would you like to be doing in your week? How many sessions ideally would work for you in terms of what that diary looks like? Once you have that construct, guys, you can start to then kind of have better discussions. Again, trying to put a formulaic template over the top of this with the training program is you're only placing some undue pressure on yourself because it's not based around who you are. Understanding your levels of strength and conditioning, understanding your levels of strengths and weaknesses within your own body has to be right at the forefront of that conversation. Understanding your nutritional demands, what does your day-to-day nutrition look like? But guys, I'm also going to highlight the importance of understanding what your blood and hormonal levels look like as well. Like this, at a certain time of our life, working in the corporate world, we've got to understand there's a level of stress that comes with this. We embrace this, but to have an understanding of what this is doing to us physiologically can be unbelievably empowering, because to know what you need to be working on is simply just taking action. And when you know what you need to be working on, and with this individual, they just needed to know black and white where they were good, where they weren't so good. What do I need? What does my week need to include? What does my nutrition need to look like? And we can then roadmap this, and we can start to integrate this. This is the type of individual that is going to respond very well to this type of training. And this is what we look to obviously give everyone that we work with. In this case, this is very, very, very effective. So this individual, within the space of first couple of weeks, we're able to obviously understand what their current training program looked like. We understand with detail because of the health professionals they've been working with, what their background, kind of injury history have been. We got to understand what their nutritional demands were and what their travel commitments were looking like. So within this, you're starting to piece out, okay, who is this individual? What are the key considerations? I think one of the biggest challenging points, one of the biggest things I find interesting was that there was this desire to find this one thing that would fix everything. And what I'm not going to sugarcoat, guys, is the fact that there was a special one thing that we did that would change it all. What I'm going to say is that there was a number of little things that we adjusted that changed the outcome very quickly. And this was obviously understanding what those key areas of weakness were physically within his strength and conditioning. It was understanding that he was actually under fueling quite significantly. It was understanding that his cortisol levels, his testosterone levels were all kind of compromised because of the high stress lifestyle he'd been living. Sleep was compromised. His expectations of how much training load and volume he was doing was compromising his kind of expectations across the week. He was trying to do too much or too little, too often. So for us, tweaking all of these different areas in the space of our first few weeks drastically kind of changed the way he was feeling in himself. Understanding that actually he could train a little bit less with a bit more focused on a couple of key areas, with energized, with better nutrition, was then obviously prioritizing his recovery more. This all gave him this greater level of energy availability. It gave him greater clarity within his work environment. It gave him much better, more presence with his family. These were all huge pieces of the puzzle, but there was no one thing. And this is, again, coming from myself. I'm always going to come to bring this to the table with you guys. There's always this comprehensive approach you want to be taking towards this high volume training lifestyle because it's complex. There's always these elements that we're talking about here: your nutrition, your recovery, your training load management, your understanding that you need a certain level of maintenance, strength and conditioning on your body. All these are hugely, hugely important. And if you disregard any of these key areas, they're going to be the thing that come back to bite you. One of the biggest bumps that we kind of had to or the roadblocks was understanding that strength and conditioning could be something that you integrate throughout the training week, non-negotiably week after week. The understanding they had before this was they had been doing functional fitness in the city. They'd been jumping in on these kind of midday sessions, working with the PT that didn't really have a background in endurance training. And so it was quickly becoming overloaded, doing muscle soreness, more fatigue. And it was because it wasn't the S&C work that they were doing wasn't prescriptive. It wasn't being taken in consideration all the other run training that they were doing, all the other workload that they had. It was just very kind of momentary. It was in the moment. This is what you need to be working on. Let's push you as hard as we can. And then good luck. And we'll see you next week or see you next session. Immediately flipping this mindset, showcasing that actually the way we start to train is we want to integrate and disperse your levels of essence, strength and conditioning across the week. The first port of call we were looking to do with this individual was find that consistency again, remove injury from their lifestyle. We want them to find that level of confidence again in their body. This meant that strength and conditioning was one of the primary focuses for us. But again, the first hurdle was trying to reframe what this looked like for them, showcasing that actually this could be done at home. This could be done in 1 to 2 sessions across the week, so you're not overthinking it. You could be integrating S&C within your warm-ups and your recoveries of those run sessions. We're starting to almost kind of just deconstruct their understanding of what S&C looked like, immediately getting them to start to little and often work on these areas of weakness. And lo and behold, guys, improved mobility, improved joint function, improved confidence in plyometric drills, starting to put more load and force and speed and power through their body. Their body started to respond, and we started the injury symptoms started to dissipate. This then started to build confidence, which in itself started to build momentum. We looked at their overall training load across the week. We again looked at what their current training program looked like. So the running program they were working from was generic in its design. It was built from an algorithm. Let's just say it was a running app. And it was just asking way too much of them too often. It wasn't taking into consideration the commuting, the travel, their kind of the injuries that they'd had and were starting to get symptomatic with. This is where we kind of helped and through discussion, through us kind of sitting down, looking at the weeks ahead, we're able to build out a much more strategic training program, which got the long runs in, got the intervals in, got the intensity in, got the skill hill-based training in without overloading them at those key moments where obviously work would be taking more from them. There's travel commitments, there were certain work projects. All this was being navigated within the training program. Okay, so this is hugely, hugely powerful, guys, because you start to really take control and you start to follow a program that is really starting to push you at the right times, at the right intensities, with the right amount of recovery. And this is what I think a lot of the time is kind of lost. there's so much, we need that recovery time. We need that adaptation time within your training program. If you don't have it, we're never going to be seeing the results of all the hard training we're doing. Nutritionally, the blood and hormonal, kind of taking a basic quick performance blood test, should I say, these were two other key areas. Having this kind of high cortisol, low testosterone levels, like very sporadic, erratic kind of nutritional behaviors, shall we say, where they were kind of just kind of eating on the fly, kind of some days having a good nutrition, other days very kind of sporadic and kind of just grabbing at anything. Again, two big areas that we were able to kind of pivot with very, very quickly within the first few weeks. Again, immediately starting to see results from. You're immediately going to start to notice better recovery hormonally, but also just from that, just that basic energy you'll be getting from just consistent nutrition. Starting to build lean muscle tissue within the first couple of months, like all of it started to cascade, as we say. And you start to see this momentum starting to build from this baseline where we're starting to really kind of quantify this individual's like lifestyle, being a family man at the weekends, getting those quality long runs in, but obviously not then sacrificing time with the family, getting enough time to recover, adapt, deloading them at the right times around big, kind of stressful weeks. We started to find real consistency. And this went from an initial 14 weeks with us, and now is out to 2.5, 3 years now with us. And in this time, we've just built volume and we've navigated huge projects, work projects. We've been international with the training program. We've worked in, I think, multiple different gym environments. We've trained from home, trained from hotel rooms, from Airbnbs, but it's been relentless. And we've navigated. I think we've been promoted and changed businesses, changed companies twice, I think, from my knowledge alone. But this is the thing where you're navigating this multitude of kind of pressures in the working world, but it's come from our understanding the kind of the ever-changing landscape that comes with working in the corporate world, the high pressures that come with that. But then in meeting those expectations that we have from ourselves physically. And this individual has just simply gone from strength to strength. And I'm not going to say they haven't picked up any niggles and injuries along the way, because that's all part of the conversation. But what they've done is they pivoted quickly. They've navigated them quickly. We've been able to get on top of these things quickly and continue on. And as a result, we're now looking down a barrel over the second half of this year, where this individual is targeting 2 big races. One's 100, one's a 50. And they're able to say yes to pretty much everything. They're going away on an active holiday with their family. They are literally saying yes, and we haven't stared down the barrel of an injury in, well, touch wood, best part of 18 months because of this. But what I'm trying to get across here, guys, is that you can achieve everything, but it just takes this level of kind of consideration where we are taking into consideration the obvious kind of pillars. And with this individual, it was the fact that they were trying to work generically. They were trying to do too much or too little too often. And they weren't considering that actually there was an individualized approach that they could be taking. And guys, with you who are listening right now, what could you be kind of leaning into? What are the key considerations here that you've listened to that potentially what you could be leaning into and kind of working harder on? A lot of the time, we're looking for those kind of quick answers, and the quick answers are there, but they generally it's more than one, and it's working on a 1% in different kind of a number of different areas. That's going to accumulate to that 5-10% difference. That's really going to kind of help you turn the corner. And this is what I want more so than anything from you guys, is to be able to kind of start to quantify this. But guys, if this has resonated, please let me know. Like I say, I'm always curious as to kind of whether this hits home or not. Obviously looking to expand on this with any of you if you're looking to obviously tackle this yourself. Otherwise, guys, I'll speak to you soon.